lose every drone in the entire expansion and a queen.
I understand this bullshit.
What?
I understand this bullshit. But I'm gonna go
Protoss. Well, no. Well, here's what I'm saying. Protoss and Zerg have no equivalent to that. There's no Zerg where you can just drop something and totally fuck something up with like 4 units with like a cheap
warp in shit with warp prisms that just no one uses.
Yeah, well, you know why no one uses them? Because it's expensive. Because you have to go out of your way to get it.
No, warp prisms aren't expensive.
You have to get it, dude. If you're playing a good game against somebody, you can't just be like, well, I'm just gonna wait a little bit longer on my Colossus or Immortal timing. I'm just gonna get a warp prism and go harass. You can't do that. Everything is timed out in this game.
One warp prism.
What?
Easily late game.
Maybe mid to late game, but you're still sacrificing a Colossus to do so.
Prism Steve, you can't just list off reasons that Terran is really strong and really good and say, I would take all these things away and say that it's going to magically balance.
Kyle, I love you. You know that, right?
I know. I think you're clouded by the fact that you just get really angry at all this shit.
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with just anger. Because if I was just angry, I would say Protoss is gay too, because of force fields and Colossus.
Exactly.
But I don't think Protoss is unbalanced.
Which makes them different, but whatever.
Yeah. Just Terran has some really fundamentally stupid things going on with him. I think, like Idris says or whatever. Like the problem with Terran is that you can beat players of significantly higher skill.
Broodlords are fundamentally stupid.
What?
Broodlords are fundamentally stupidly strong.
Broodlords are not strong. Broodlords have extreme power, but they're restricted on 2 things. 1, they cannot hit air. 2, and they're very fucking slow.
Fundamentally, they're stupid strong against ground.
Against just ground. Against some ground, Kyle. They can be countered by Blink Stalkers. They can be countered by Stim Marines. They can be countered by Thors. Those are ground units to counter. That's not even talking about Vikings or Storm or Archons or whatever else flies in the air. Kyle, no, Kyle, that was a good example. Let's compare Tier 3. Ultras are kind of strong against ground, but they can't attack air, and they're melee units, Kyle. Colossus can range, but they're vulnerable to air units, and they can only attack ground. Look at the Terran Thor. Terran Thor is really good against air and ground. What the fuck is up with that? Why does Thor splash air? That's retarded.
I'm going to continue to say what I've been saying. You can't just list off the things that are...
No, Kyle, I'm giving you an equivalency between all 3 races Tier 3. All 3 races Tier 3. Battle Cruisers can hit air and ground, and they get a special Yamato ability. Thors can hit air and ground, both extremely effectively. Terran Tier 3 is so vulnerable, or so versatile. But if you look at Zerg Tier 3, you said that Broodlords are retardedly powerful against ground. Yes? Oh, Kyle.
You can't make these direct comparisons. The races are supposed to be different, and they are.
Yeah, but there's a difference between each race being different and Terran just being better. Like, if I were to make that's the thing, you can't just... Like, your idea of balancing it is stupid. To make it so that all 3 races have kind of, like, the same vein? Like, even though Protoss and Zerg...
They need to be ridiculously different. Like, there are things that are imbalanced, and there are things that are hard, but they need to be different. And
it's like if I were to, like, list... It's like, I'm listing different things. If I were to just make a list of how the races work, like, Protoss is different. Zerg, that's different. Terran, well, theirs is better. Like, this is what the spreadsheet would look like, Kyle. This is what the spreadsheet would look like. And you're saying, just because Terran is different... No, it's fucking ridiculous.
Terran, it's like you can't just choose a couple of random things to change.
I'm not choosing random things. I'm pointing at. Oh, Kyle!
You're saying, oh, I would take away Planetary Fortress. I would put a cooldown on mules. I would make hell units cost gas.
Kyle, look at mules. If you equivocate, if you look at the Kyle, every other race's macro mechanic has a cooldown. Why doesn't mule have a cooldown?
Steve, you can't just. This idea that you want to make everything the same.
No, Kyle, it's not. So you're saying that Chrono Boost and whatever is the same. Chrono Boost and Inject is the same.
No, it's not.
It's different. That's right. But they both have a cooldown. That's similar, correct?
But that's completely arbitrary.
How is it arbitrary? No, Kyle, listen. Macro mechanics exist so that better players can use a macro mechanic. But if you make it so that the macro mechanic can be caught up on, if Zerg falls behind on injections, you're punished for it. You can't inject twice. If Protoss falls behind on Chrono Boost, you're punished for it. You can't Chrono Boost the same building twice at the same time. But Terran can wait on mules and then just drop 4 of them. Like they're not punished enough for mistakes.
You could just compare them. This idea that there's this like 1-to-1 comparison between the races.
I'm not comparing one to one, Kyle. I'm just making generalizations how the races generally function.
You're saying this and this and this are the same, but they should all be equal. We should all have this.
I didn't say they should be equal. Protoss and Zerg are very different, Kyle, but they're different but equal. Kyle, it's like racism, separate but equal. Okay?
You're saying they should all have a cooldown? You're saying they're the same, and they're not.
I'm not saying they should have a cooldown. For instance, I think that if a player goes out of their way to do some harass, they should be punished for it. Protoss is punished. If you do a DT rush as Protoss and it fails, you're punished for it. You're behind an army.
Fucking making the races the same thing. They're different. Different races have different strengths. This idea that you should make them all the same and all punished equally and like this equality thing is bullshit.
Kyle, no, they have to be equal. You can't have a better race. Somebody should say, how's that Starcraft 2 game? Oh, it's pretty good. What do you think about the races? Well, Protoss and Zerg are different. Terran is different, but better in every way.
You're a dumbass. They have to be equal as a whole. They have to be equal as a whole, not as
they do. Okay, I agree with that, Kyle. But where? But so if Terran excels, in all of these different areas, what area are they lacking in that makes them equal to the other races as a whole?
I'm not saying they're equal. I'm saying your idea of balancing this game is stupid and bullshit and dumbass.
I fucking hate you, Kyle.
I know you hate me because I'm the only one who fucking stands up to me. You've got
no, it's not about that. You just.
You can't. Like, they need to be equal as a whole, but you can't just say, oh, this is better, therefore it's imbalanced.
No, it is, Kyle! An expansion in Soviet Russia that defends you is better than an expansion that doesn't defend you.
Look, Terran, let me try and break this down.
Okay, break it down for me, Kyle.
Let's say Zurich has 5 things that are awesome, and Protest has 5 things that are awesome, and Terran has 10 things that are awesome. That would make the Terran race imbalanced, right? But you can't, like, you can't, there are maybe 10 things that are awesome about the Terran race, but you can't just take all of them away. And that's all I ever hear you say. It's like, what do you take away to make them balanced? Which ones? You don't know. That's hard. That's ridiculous.
Kyle, whether or not you like to believe it, in a real-time strategy game, or at least insofar as StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 2 goes, every single race has some generalities that they share, okay? Protoss, Zerg, and Terran, everybody has to make a new building and an expansion to collect resources from, okay? Everybody has to produce offensive units to attack. Every race has some
things, and that's right. That's correct. Those are broad things. But saying that, oh, Terran needs to have a
no. Listen, so there are more broad. You can get a little bit more specific, okay? If a race moves out with a big army that can do a lot of damage and loses that big army, they are fundamentally behind. It's how the game should function. What?
That is a broad thing that needs to be changed. That it needs a specific change.
Okay, well, in order to change broad things, you have to start tweaking little things.
Like, you say that a lot. You say that Terran can lose a giant army, or you know, they can get a giant push deflected, and they're still okay. But the way that you want that, what you're suggesting to balance that doesn't make sense. Making Hellions cost gas, putting a cooldown on mule timers, like, there's no evidence that
putting a cooldown on mule timers will bring it more in line with how the other two macro mechanics function.
But they don't necessarily need to be in line.
Why not?
Why so?
Because it's how the other two macro mechanics function. Either that, or how about to make things more equal, how about instead of making it so Mule has a cooldown, let's make it so that you can inject one hatchery multiple times. If you could inject one hatchery with the same queen twice, I would be happy with no cooldown on Mule. That way, if I fall behind on my injections, I can just throw a whole bunch of larvae onto my hatchery. That would be fair.
Like, I don't even like the fact that you call them 3 macro mechanics and then you group them together because they're so amazingly different.
They are different, but they all fall under the subset of this was something that we added to the game to give macro. It's a macro mechanic, Kyle. You have your head buried so far up your ass that you can't admit that all three, that muling, chrono boosting, and injecting were all added under the same kind of idea, that they're all kind of the same thing.
So, but I hate they shouldn't even be grouped together. I can't stand that term macro mechanic because they all have ridiculously different purposes.
Yeah, but
they're so completely different. The fact that you group them together and say, oh, they have to be equal in some way is so fucking stupid. Like, you can't group that shit together. They're not even close to the same. They're used so differently. They have such different purposes. Like the fucking Chrono Boost isn't even a unit. Should it be a unit?
No.
Well, they need to make. Why? I think they should make it a unit because the other two. I mean, I think mules should cost supply. Queens cost supply. You can say a million fucking stupid things.
Chrono Boost doesn't cost supply, and injecting doesn't cost supply. Kyle,
yeah,
no.
Queens cost supply. You gotta have a queen to do it. So I think.
Yeah, but a queen also is enough. It can fight.
Well, I think queens shouldn't be able to fight because they get fighting out of their macro mechanic. They get anti-air out of it. I don't care. I can't fucking attack air with my mule. That's what you sound like to me. Fuck you.
Kyle, I love you. You know this,
Fuck
right?
you. That's what you sound like to me.
You know I love you, right, Kyle?
I fucking hate you.
I actually hate you too.
I know you do. I can't stand
So back to the question at hand, I should play Terran?
Yeah.